I'd never missed a day at St. Peter's before.
Slow down, boy.
Uncle Rory was lagging behind quite a ways. We were out extra early that Sunday.
You can't make everyone happy.
Oh, come now. She's a wee girl. We'll find her, and she'll be so thrilled Sunday will be her favourite day of the week. There was no wee girl. Only cool-coloured eyes and dark slick hair.
What about Father Gabriel, Does he know you won't be given the Eucharist today?
Oops. Of course he does. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten to let Father Gabriel know. Though it's not like someone else can't minister it. I'm nothing special. The heavy wooden door creaked open. Organ music spilling through the hall. The pews are filling. No Vincent.
There's a dozen churches. Are gonna be late, and what'll that do to your image?
It's for a sweet girl. Have some heart, would ya? Uncle Roy groaned.
I can only keep you 1 hour, not cleanse your reputation.
Door after door. The clock only ticked down until finally... Mom! Mom! A hushed voice rushed. The organ wasn't playing anymore, and Mass was imminent. Pews were packed. Everyone had been silently praying until a voice had broken their serenity. Her mother shushed her. Harsh eyes looked at the source. A wide-eyed wee girl in a frilly blue dress, though her gaze led people to me instead. My presence only served to interrupt. Uncle Rory gave me a toothy half-smile.
Oh, thank God.
Before I could retort, he made his way to sit down near the vibrating girl who'd not looked away from me since I'd stepped inside.
No.
Well, shit. We stayed at that church, St. Mary's, as my excuse unfortunately had been far too good. I really had to get worse at lying. Organ music spilled through the basement, a spacious break room for the congregation to mingle, lined with circular tables and chairs. Some folks from the church brought some sweets to share, which had been set up a long, lengthy table. Uncle Rory had a small plate piled high with 3 donuts, which felt excessive considering we'd never come here before, especially since he'd scoffed at the donation basket. I scribbled an autograph in the back of a St. Mary's pamphlet, handed it to the vibrating girl. She beamed and thanked me. I always wanted to meet a man for the television. I could feel Uncle Rory's gaze to the back of my head.
Didn't she ask you to come?
Uncle Rory pressed with a mouthful of donut. Can't anyone chew with their mouth closed? Yes. That's what I said.
Always wanted to meet a man from the TV.
Kids say odd stuff. Uncle Rory put his donut down and stood up with a creak. Of the chair or his bones, maybe both. My heart shot into my throat as he shuffled toward the girl. I grabbed his plate, cutting him off. Hey, you're still eating?
I'm not in any rush.
He dodged past me. My throat went tight, as if a cable were taut around it. I grabbed his wrist. We should get going. I've got to read the new scripts. You're acting mental. He threw me off with a shift of his weight, flicked off like a parasite. I couldn't let him speak to her. Well, you ought to not be taking their food without even giving a donation. Now everyone was looking at us. Uncle Rory's heavy eyes bulged. The weight of judgment didn't lift until his donation was made. It hadn't even mattered. He had figured me out. Uncle Rory didn't need to say a word for me to know he was raging. My legs wobbled and I collapsed to sit on the cement church stair. Almost everyone had filtered out already, aside from a couple stragglers. Luckily, that left few people to witness my furious uncle glare at me. His silence was somehow worse than if he'd been loudly proclaiming I'm a lion-diseased sissy. I couldn't think of an excuse fast enough, though at this point, anything other than the truth is unlikely to please him. I dug my fingers into my knees. I could just get up and go. I could just get up and go home. Reading the scripts was at least a good way to keep my mind off the fact I'd not only ruined any chance I had at befriending Vincent, but now I'd destroyed my uncle's faith in me too. Not to mention God. I really needed to speak with Father Gabriel. Set up a time for confession. Merely the thought of confessing all my now given up late-night activities was 100 times more sickening than the whiskey I'd so eagerly downed. Organ music began to spill from the ornate door. The second Mass of the day was beginning. Uncle Rory lit a parliament. He stepped closer as he smoked it, glaring down at me as grey wisps billowed from his mouth. It burned my nostrils. I deserved it. The flames of hell would eat my skin 1,000 times worse. I should at least get used to this weak singe. The first folks began to enter, ignoring us entirely. Thankfully, most people didn't look twice at me. Some did. Hopefully, the wordless standoff I had gotten into wouldn't affect my ratings. My lungs begged for fresh air. I reached up my hand. Can I? Uncle Rory gave me the fag. Once the silence broke between us, I felt relief. Sure, it was a tad odd, sitting silently on the step, but nothing too strange. Suddenly, everything looked normal enough. Just two average, godly men sharing a cigarette. I forced a long pull. It burned my lungs and caught in my throat until I was coughing so hard tears burst from my eyes. I wheezed and cried, trying to hold in my coughs, though that only made it worse. When I couldn't hold them in anymore, my stomach began to lurch until I choked up my breakfast, retching right there on the church step. Tasty yogurt mixed with fresh berries was now a nasty brownish red paste. So much for normal. I pretended to not feel the eyes I'd once again drawn. Everyone was always watching me. No matter what I was doing, an audience would be there to tear me to pieces with their loud thoughts. My hand shakily held up the ciggy, which Uncle Rory begrudgingly took back. I couldn't catch my breath, especially not as more and more smoke billowed down into my face. My stomach seized even after I'd choked out all my yogurt. I covered my face as my body tried to eject my entire stomach. This was paradise in comparison to hell. Oh, I'd miss this moment. Every second, I would crave to return to the simple sting of vomit and smoke in my nose.
Mr. McGregor, I didn't realize you went to this church. It's great to see you.
My favorite voice chirped. Was I dying? This was already hell, wasn't it?
You. Too much communion wine?
I nodded quickly through my attempts to get air in my lungs.
No, he had a drag. One drag? He's just a wee boy.
They both chuckled. I struggled to break free, but I was miraculously able to push my choking into laughter. My eyes cracked open, and I looked up. Only as we made eye contact did I feel the heat on my legs and chest. I'd thrown up on myself as well as the stairs. Vincent stopped laughing when our eyes met.
Gross.
If I had anything left in my body, I'd have thrown up again. That's all he knew about me now. Simply a gross pervert. If it wasn't true, perhaps it would sting less. I know. He got closer and I recoiled. The thought of him smelling the horrible acid on my clothes was far worse than any hellfire could be. He already hated me. My true sinful colors had been shown, both in my thieving and my overzealous homosexual touch.
How are you going to be a big media star if you can't even suck down a single cig?
I hated how the question heated my face. He thought I was a kid, a weak wee boy who can't do anything a real man can. I can too suck down a whole fag.
What?
This time, it was his cheeks that were flushed. Cold eyes wide, he'd expected me to give up, to accept reality that I'm a wee sick boy who's too stupid to even try. Not me. I jumped up and swiped the ciggy from Uncle Rory once more. Vincent's chest nearly brushed mine as I took another pull. It was shorter. I let the smoke hit his face. I stifled another cough. His gaze circled me, evaluating my worth. A hungry farmer picking apart the herd's weakest lamb. If I was ready for slaughter. He focused on my lips, then my eyes, then my soiled clothes. His eyes carried the weight of 1,000 audiences. I took a deep breath. Another drag. This time, I didn't hide my cough. The cig was seemingly eternal, but I could do it. I could do anything for Mr. Vincent Whitman. He was my idol. Nothing more. Simply a talented man I wished to impress. The third draw was a mistake. My lip trembled and I immediately fell back to the ground, gagging. Vincent began to laugh again. The organ slowed.
Mass is starting soon. You better get cleaned up before you come in.
He leaned into my ear. You fucking reek. His hot breath burned my skin like cigarette ash.
Oh, we already.
Yes, sir, of course. Even just choking out simple words is like sandpaper on my throat. Vincent slipped inside before Uncle Rory spat at me.
You off your head? We're going home.
Wobbling like a newborn lamb, I stood up, as if fresh out my mother's womb. Did he want me to come in? Despite everything? Was he still truly okay with my presence? I'll see you in a bit then.
Where going?
I'm staying for Mass.
Same service we just saw.
I stared through the ajar door into the line of pews. Vincent was sitting up near the front, ample space beside him. Was that for me? What about burning bridges? I think maybe...
You are off your head.
Uncle Rory grabbed my wrist, the one not covered in vomit, dragging me down the steps. No! I tore away. Nothing could stop me from at least trying to rebuild. If I could just explain to Vincent what happened, maybe everything would be okay. He was such an understanding, compassionate person. Fine, I won't, but, well, I can go to Mass if I please. A repeat may be good. I need more healing.
You pleased, and we went, and now we best be going home.
I'm staying. Cold grey eyes clawed at my skin. Smoke fell from his lip. He grabbed my shoulder.
That weatherman is meaningless. You're my boy.
It wasn't kind. No, it was a reminder of ownership. The organ had stopped. I slumped his hand off. I'm grown. He chuckled.
Where do you live?
Work?
Who bought that sweet yogurt you just spat up?
His words cut into me like a butcher's cleaver. It wasn't even true. My commercials always did well. My show was doing great. I wanted to slump down and scream until my sore throat bled. Hit myself in the head over and over so he'd be forced to hold me still to keep me from hurting myself. Make him carry me out over his shoulder, biting and whining and crying all the way. Force him to soothe me. But that had always been far too much trouble. He had chosen cruelty. And that was a part I always loved the chance to play. Nothing would stop me from attending Mass. Vincent wanted me there, despite my sickness. I crossed my arms, standing up straight. Even though Uncle Rory's a large man, I'm still taller. My neck craned, adding even more to my height. Just 'cause you're stuck in between doesn't mean I am.
I'm Catholic.
Squished eyes stared up at me. He didn't falter, despite being so tiny, so insignificant. So I didn't stop. No, you're not. Born and raised Protestant. Always found it quite strange you converted to Ma's religion. Not your own brother, your own blood. It was my turn to jab his broad chest.
Rowan.
Isn't that a wee bit odd? Filling all the roles your brother couldn't? Ha! Like filling his wife's bed? The words burned more than the vomit on my lips. I remembered all too well. Dad'd be off in the street, completely mad with pride for a country he'd never be welcomed by. Usually that left Ma and I. But when Uncle Rory was in town, we'd become a complete Catholic family. He'd never truly cared, though. Ma mattered to him more than faith. She could ask him to purchase flowers with his own money, and then plant them with his bare hands. Uncle Rory hated mud, and yet his nails would be caked with dirt if she so much as looked in his direction. It was pleasant when he replaced Da. He was always a much better man. Though a rabid wolf would be a better man than my father. Our family unit was so quiet when he wasn't there. Then night would come. Da'd still be out, and they'd tuck me in with a Bible story. Some of them helped me sleep. I liked the Garden of Eden a lot. It was pleasant to imagine, especially because I'd have never doomed mankind. It made me mad to think about now. How selfish. Some were not so pleasant. On nights we read about the lake of fire, my eyes would struggle to so much as blink. Once darkness took over my bedroom and I was left alone, I could only cry. I would scramble to Ma's room, only to find them together in bed. I would dash back to my room and pull the sheets over my eyes, praying they would cover up. Whenever I changed clothes, I would snap my eyes shut so tight my face hurt. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. Not even myself. Not even God. It was so wrong. Feckin' Christ! Uncle Roy spat, eyes snapped shut with sour disgust. Don't be saying that. As if he felt no regret. How come I, as a wee boy, was able to understand his sin? The sin he'd commit every single time he came home from the States. I was forgiven. Maybe I need to be forgiven. The church bell tolled, and an usher came to close the door. Fine, go to Mass. Uncle Rory couldn't meet my eyes. He couldn't even take a drag of his ciggy, too busy waving me off. Triumph burned bright in my chest, and I marched on up to the door, catching it before it closed. The usher looked at me with a smile, before it twisted. Is that vomit?